see me looking at the monitor, that's what's going on. I figured for this little video, I could go ahead and talk about the mini bike. It's kind of like a custom build mini bike. It's nothing that nobody can do, but it is, you know, something to talk about, I guess, if you're interested. Anybody that's watching, there you go. So, what do I actually have here? Hold on, I got a text. This is a Motovox MBX10. Well, at least the frame is. See, this little motor is not the typical 80cc that it comes with. This is a Predator 212 from Harbor Freight. The cool thing about these little tiny motors is they are very easy to modify with very few parts, or very easy to crazy modify with just a little bit more extra parts. It doesn't take much to turn this into a monster of an engine. So this is also my favorite sticker in the entire thing because it just fits so well.
Ricky Morty.
So what all has been done to it? Not much. The whole point of my build, at least, is to keep it very simple. I wanted to do the bare minimum, but be able to reach a decent power output. Kendall, the friend of mine from the Vicious Network, he also has a bike. He has a Monster Moto, and mine is a MBX10, as I said. I can put a picture up so you can see the differences between the chassis. This is his, and this is mine. Now, I don't know if you can spot the differences, but mine is more chopper style. If you look, it's just a giant arch coming down, and then loops back and comes up. If you know chopper designs, that very basic triangle, that's what mine has. Whereas his has more of a cradle design with the fork sticking out for the tire and all that. So his has a very intrusive bar right about here, which honestly came across like it would hit the intake on his. So we had to, one, beat the actual bar itself to get it flattened, and we had to sit his motor just ever so slightly. Everything works perfectly fine, but that's one very big difference that we found with the chassis themselves. Now, with the motors, initially we both did the same things. We both did exhaust, intakes, and valve springs. Now, from there is where we really started to see a difference. Kendall kept going with the forged internals, billet flywheels, and that whole side of things. Upgraded carb, like all these things. Whereas I wanted to, because he was gonna go that route, I took the route of, okay, let me keep it simple, and we can see the differences between a simple build and his overall, you know, crazy build. No knock on what he's doing. That's obviously a route to go. I'm honestly doing it this route because it's cheaper, plain and simple. And I'm curious to see how little of parts I can use to try to reach his power output and top speeds. Because he is going build, that's my benchmark. My benchmark is whatever numbers he does, whatever top speeds he does, I'm gonna do my bare minimum to try to reach that. That's the whole reason why I also wanted to keep it very simple and very different. But the overall goal is the same thing. Make sure we have the same, roughly the same outputs in power wise and top speeds, so that way we can both cruise and have fun. Plain and simple. So, what's all done to the chassis itself? Not much, honestly. Just a big one is the axle pickup point. It used to be this one down here, which, if you can tell, when I'm riding, it used to be directly under me. And that presented with issues because the motor, since I upgraded it, or added the little things, it made more power and more torque. So when I was pressing the gas, the combination of gearing that I had at the time would essentially make this thing take off like an electric car. It would just immediately punch, and torque would come in very hard, and the way I was sitting would cause, as you can imagine, if I was sitting up, it would just cause me to pop wheelies all the time, which cool because you can practice wheeling and it would make it very much easier, but it was kind of terrifying when you're not really trying to do that. So one big one, and I'm no pioneer here, I didn't invent this, I saw it and I was like, I like it, here we go. Basically just relocate the pickup point. A lot of people just cut it, weld it somewhere else. I wanted to keep it just in case. I don't know, I didn't want to cut it off. I can cut it off and make it cleaner, but I essentially just made my own version on the back, further back. Made a simple little template and then just straight up cut a piece of metal, welded it on there. You know, did my little rough measurements and everything lines up perfectly, and it's been on there and it's held up solidly. But you can see very drastically how it changed the wheelbase. It extended it, but it also lowered the seating position. So when the wheel used to be here, you can imagine it would just lift up the chassis just ever so slightly. So everything kind of sat a little, I don't know, higher on the rear. This ended up dropping it very much like a chopper. That's why it looks the way it looks. So I was able to do that. Wasn't shit. The welds look all right, but it works and it's on there. The other little thing that I had to do was honestly just change the position of the kickstand. Essentially, because the chassis was sitting up higher, the kickstand was at a certain angle, and I just needed to stick it out a little bit more. So that one was very simple. I just cut it under the flap itself, the original flap, bented it up, and then welded the cut crater, if that makes sense. If you can imagine, when you cut it, there's like a little channel, and the whatever. If you weld or if you know what the fuck I'm talking about, you'll get what I mean. But the point is, it's all good. It's stout. It's holding up. It's not gonna break, and it works. That's really what I'm going with here. So that's everything that's really done to the chassis itself. Okay, so what in this motor is modified? In this particular one, exhaust, springs, and intake. The exhaust on these things, if you see a factory one, it just has like almost like a block looking square. I don't have an old one here, but it's like this block looking muffler. It's very restrictive, it's very intrusive, and it just doesn't work for these kind of situations. So you can buy one of these aftermarket. They range from any kind of weird shape, any direction stuff, so that is according to what chassis you get or where are you putting this motor in. If it's going in a go-kart, you might want to have something like a turn down style. It just turns and points straight down to the ground. In this situation, I wanted something that snaked out the back, very motorcycle style. This particular configuration does that. It's very tight on one end, but it works out perfectly fine. Now, on the intake side, we're dealing with the same thing as the exhaust. Very simple replacement and upgrade. This is just a bolt-on piece you can get offline. You can get it at eBay for no name brand Chinese stuff, or you can go to Go Power Sports and get some real name brand stuff. It's all really the same. You can have this foam looking intake, or you can have a typical cone style looking intake. Regardless, it all does the same thing. If you look at the original intake box, it's very restrictive, it can't breathe, so you buy something like this, which is simply just a replacement piece, to then be able to apply one of these, and that's it. You got some power. Good intake, good exhaust, you got some power. And lastly, you have the valve cover, which would show the valves, right? Because that's what it's covering. Also, that's what the OHV stands for. Overhead valves. So there's the piston head, the valves are over the head. Make sense? There you go. So the valves has an intake and an exhaust valve. Those, if you know how valves work, there's the little springs on them. Those springs. The factory springs, I don't know what they're rated for, but they're not that great. The ones I've upgraded to I think are 18-pound springs. That's it. You can go higher. You can go to like 20, 24, 25, whatever the fuck, however many there are. I really don't know that well. But stiffer springs help you out. So I just went to 18 because the internals of this can handle up to 18, and that would increase my power output. And lastly, one of the final things I did was obviously add these riser bars. I had some regular bars that sat lower, and it gave it more of a race bike feel, like very low to the ground kind of thing. But these risers, as you can tell, allows me to stay more cruiser, friendly. It's just, I don't know, more of a style choice at this point. I also had to get the van script because, you know. So that's really it. The light is just there for show. It doesn't really work. I want to try to make it work, but for that I would need to independently wire it to like a little battery, something like this. I could get one of these little batteries, little 18 volt, 24 volt, whatever the case. I can make an independent system for the light to work and put it under a switch or something. Problem with that is it'll work for however long the battery lasts. If the battery dies, I have to either charge it, get a new battery, etc, etc. Not ideal. So for the most part, I'm just gonna leave this very simple. If I put a light, it might be some switch on LED off batteries. Maybe I can make it work with this, but I'm not trying to rig up an elaborate system. There's no point. So yeah, for the most part, this is just a fun project and something that me and a friend just do because it was fun. I figured now I can make a video of it, and who knows if this will resonate with some people, and I'll find some little niche, you know, mini bike enthusiasts come across this video. Hi, this is something I'm gonna just keep doing videos on, just these little project mini bikes. Maybe I'll go on for a ride and I'll do a video of that so you can see what it actually looks like when you're outside with this thing. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna, you know, put this video out there so you can see what this is, and if somebody's interested in learning more about it, you know, comment, I guess, and I'll try to respond to anything I can think of. Then yeah, thanks for watching, and do the other stuff. Subscribe, like, and all that kind of shit. Bye.